it is Friday, and Senator Bernie Sanders is on the line with us, our Brunch with Bernie hour. Give us an update on what's going on this week.
Okay. Well, I want to tell you something that's really interesting that just happened the other day. We sent out an email to a whole lot of folks on our email list, and people can get on that list at sanders.senate.gov. And you know what we did, Tom? We said, we talked about wealth and income inequality in America as the great moral issue of our time. You know, very few people phrase it like that, but I happen to think it is. You know, you have enormous disparity in terms of the people on top doing phenomenally well while the middle class disappears and more people living in poverty now than ever before. And I phrased it as a moral issue. And you know what? Within 2 days, we have had over 4,000 people writing. And we said to people, tell me what you think. What are your ideas? How do we address the issue? Should we address the issue? And in 2 days, you know, which for us is really extraordinary, we had over 4,000 people writing in on that issue. Imagine that.
Wow, that's great.
And what it tells me is that we're not just looking at economics and the fact that most of the new jobs being created are low wage and part-time, or that real unemployment is 14%, or that 95% of all new income in a recent 3-year period went to the top 1%. But people are seeing it not just as an economic issue, but a moral issue. Do you really want to live in a nation, or do you feel comfortable about living in a nation in where the top 1% owns 38% of the financial wealth of America, while the bottom 60% owns 2.3%?
Right. And
do you really feel comfortable about living in a nation where, in recent years, there has been just a huge growth in the number of billionaires, while we have the highest rate of childhood poverty in the industrialized world? Back in 1996, there were 121 billionaires in this country. Today, there are 442. And yet we have more people living in poverty than ever before. Highest rate of childhood poverty in the industrialized world. Poverty among seniors is growing. Hunger is growing in America. Is that the kind of country that we want to live in from a moral perspective? And I think just a whole lot of people are very concerned about that issue. And people, by the way, they want to make comments on that, they can get that information and write to us at sanders.senate.gov. But I was just really surprised at the kind of response we got to that.
Yeah. America is a fundamentally moral people, you know, Americans.
They are. And what you have, though, is you have our political world, the political establishment, and the media establishment never phrasing the issue in that way.
Yeah, and morality, unless it's, you know, right-wing evangelicals or whatever who are trying to redefine morality. Right. You're absolutely right. Senator Bernie Sanders is with us. We'll be taking your calls for Senator Sanders, unless he has more that he wants to share with us right after the break. Stick around. We'll be right back with Brunch with Bernie here on the Thom Hartmann Program.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Live from Chicago on my way up to Minneapolis, where I will be tomorrow. We'll be doing a book signing tomorrow afternoon. Welcome back. You still with us, Senator? Senator?
Yeah, right here.
Okay, great.
Good.
Paul in South Lyon, Michigan. Paul, you're on the air with Senator Sanders. Thanks for watching Free Speech
Bernie,
TV, Paul.
You're not the only one, but you're one of the gems among a lot of lumps of coal in the Congress. And I hope you use that in your next campaign. Anyway, the Republicans and their partners, the corporate billionaire media, seems like are trying to take this country back to the insurance company death panels that bankrupted and killed thousands of people a year. Recently, President Obama fell into their trap and apologized for the insurance companies canceling policies when he should have told the so-called reporters to start doing their job and go ask the insurance companies why they're canceling policies. But my question is, would you please explain how insurance plans, even the crappy ones, were grandfathered into Obamacare?
Well, you know, the very, very complicated Affordable Care Act, and one of its problems is, Paul, that it is just extraordinarily complicated. The way it ended up coming about is we needed 60 votes in the Senate to overcome a Republican filibuster. So there are a whole lot of things in there that are not particularly good, but were put in there to get 60 votes and to try to get something passed in the Senate without one Republican vote, which is what ended up happening. But going back to the broader issue of what you began your discussion about these totally inadequate health insurance plans, the dilemma that Obama had, and he really was caught in a very difficult position. On one hand, he said publicly, if you like the insurance plan that you have, you can keep it. On the other hand, you have these insurance policies out there that are just horrendous. I mean, I was looking at some of them the other day, where maximum you pay a certain amount of money, maybe you pay $800 or $1,000 a year for what you get, and you know what you get, Tom? You get maximum $2,000 coverage.
Whoa.
Which will last you about 15 minutes if you ever forced to be in a hospital.
Right.
And the problem is that many people, I think, did not fully understand what they were getting. They said, oh, boy, I have health insurance.
Right.
Well, you really don't. It covers very, very little, and I think people did not know that. And, what our Republican friends are saying, oh, isn't it terrible that people can't keep their policy? Well, these policies, the reason they couldn't keep them is they were totally inadequate. And what the Affordable Care Act wanted to say is that a policy has got to have at least a minimum standard. But I think once this thing begins to roll out and people understand that if they look at the Affordable Care Act, there may well be programs that cost them the same amount of money, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but will provide a lot more for them than is currently the case. And that's the key issue here.
Yeah. And well, we're going to hit the break in just a second, so I suppose we can get into this on the other end. But I'm really curious your thoughts on these plans in the House and the Senate and where they're going. So we'll be right back with more of Senator Bernie Sanders. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm in Chicago. I'll be in Minneapolis tomorrow. Well, I'll fill you in on that a little later. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, broadcasting live from Chicago. And Senator Bernie Sanders on the line, taking your calls.
Again, stay with Paul's question.
Sure.
And that is to say, look, in terms of this Affordable Care Act, there is no defense at how badly the website has malfunctioned. There's just no defense. I don't think the president tries to make a defense for it. It is an absolute embarrassment, and it is causing very, very serious problems, period. End of discussion. I just met the other day, along with other senators, with the folks who are working, presumably they tell us 24/7 on this issue. They continue to tell us that by the end of the month they should have this thing in good shape. I certainly hope that is the case. But what the Republicans, of course, where they have absolutely no credibility, I mean, these are people who have consistently wanted to fund the Affordable Care Act. They have no solution to the need to deal with the fact that we have 48 million people with no health insurance, many others with junk insurance, like the ones I just discussed, and the fact that we end up spending almost twice as much per person on health care as do the people of any other nation without particularly good health care outcomes. So, Republicans have no credibility on this issue. But certainly the administration has not helped the case by the website malfunctioning, and that's something that just has to be addressed.
Kevin in Wilmington, Vermont. You're on the air with Senator Sanders, with your senator.
This is Kevin.
Hey, Kevin.
Hi, Bernie. My question is twofold. First of all, I'm wondering if you could give us an update to Senate Bill 795, which apparently is aimed at giving master limited partnerships financing for green energy projects. And also, have you had a chance to see the letter I wrote regarding a green energy project along the median strip of Interstate 91, which is related to that?
Tell me a little bit about that project. I did think I did. Just very briefly, Kevin, that on the interstate, what were you proposing?
I was proposing for the entire length where it's allowable, where it's able to be done, to make a solar array and windmill energy power plant.
Yep.
The clear length.
Yep. Yeah, I am familiar with that. I think that the second point is a good point. Look, we just here in Vermont, working with the Department of Energy, just installed in Williston, Vermont, a project which is going to be testing different solar panels to see which ones are more efficient for our climate. And that type of testing is taking place in other parts of the country. Vermont's climate is different than Florida's, is different than the Midwest, etc. So we're looking at that. And the idea in terms of solar, look, to install solar PV, we are going to need space to do it. And I think what Kevin is talking about, why not use strips of the interstate? To the degree that that is feasible, I think that makes sense to me. I think we should be using public land. The truth of the matter is, if we utilize public land, we can create a lot more sustainable energy, and that's something we have got to do, because the scientists keep telling us with more and more urgency that global warming is real, it is already causing serious damage, and it will only get worse unless we transform our energy system. So, Kevin, thanks for your thoughts.
Wes in... let me click the button here. Uh-oh, now my buttons aren't working.
All right. Well, can you get Wes on?
Yeah, I can't, but I can tell you his question is, are higher insurance rates caused by a desire for profit? I'm guessing he's more articulate than that, but that was his question. We will have to reboot all of our systems at the bottom of the hour, but I can tell you what people are calling about. Wes is calling from Chicago, but that's his question. Thoughts on why the higher insurance rates are going up, and actually, I'm curious your thoughts on the Landry plan in the Senate, the what's his name plan in the House, and what the president has done.
And what it's very important, and I think a lot of Americans don't fully appreciate, is that I hesitate to call it a system, our non-healthcare system, if you like, which is primarily dominated by private insurance companies, is unique in the industrialized world. We are the only country in the world where private insurance companies, whose goal in life is to make as much money as possible, is the predominant force. Every other major country has a national health care system guaranteeing health care to all people. And all of those systems are different. The Canadian system is different than the British system, is different than the German system, is different than the Scandinavian systems. They're all different. But they all have the common basis, the commonality of guaranteeing health care to all people in a non-profit way, providing health care in the most cost-effective way. So when Wes asked why our rates are so much higher than the rest of the world, and again, we are spending almost twice as much as any other country. So when people say, is the American system better than the Canadian system? Well, we can argue it. The Canadian system has its problems. We certainly have our problems. They are spending half as much, or a little bit more than half as much as we are. It's like, me paying Tom $60,000 for a car, you paying $30,000, and us arguing which car is better. My car should
when
be
it's the same car.
That's certainly not the case.
Yeah.
And you could argue that some of the Danish system or the Scandinavian systems, in fact, are better than the American system, spending a fraction of what we're spending. So the answer to Wes's question is that when you have a system designed for profit, it not only takes a whole lot of money out of the system for profit, it distorts the system. For example, if we invest in primary health care, if we make sure that every American has access to a doctor when he or she needs that access, not only do you ease human suffering and prevent death, you save money. Because right now, people end up getting a lot sicker than they should. But we don't emphasize primary health care because it's not as profitable as other types of health care.
Brilliant point. Senator Bernie Sanders with us. We will fix this technical problem during this break at the bottom of the hour, and we will be back with more of your questions for Bernie right after this. It's the Thom Hartmann Program, our Brunch with Bernie hour. Check out Bernie's website, sanders.senate.gov.
I wanted to mention a couple of the things that are moving in Washington right now that are very important. We're going to move as quickly as we can an effort to raise the minimum wage to at least $10.10 an hour. And the reason for that is obvious, I think, to most of the listeners, that minimum wage has not kept pace with inflation. Most of the new jobs in America that are being created are low-wage jobs, part-time jobs. The national minimum wage of $7.25 an hour is totally inadequate for a family. It's totally inadequate for an individual. So we're going to try to raise that minimum wage to $10.10 an hour. I think we've got a shot to do it if the American people pile on this issue, if they make it really clear that it is absurd that we have millions of people working for starvation wages. So we're going to need to help the American people on that, and that's a bill that's going to be coming up. I'm not quite sure when, but certainly within the next month, I think. Another issue out there, Tom, that you and I have talked about a whole lot is the issue of Social Security. I'm on the Budget Committee, and we're in conference right now. And clearly, our Republican friends would like to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, which is their way as to how they want to do deficit reduction. And I am unalterably opposed to that. I think when so many people are hurting, you don't cut these programs, especially since Social Security hasn't contributed a nickel to the deficit in the first place. I'm happy to say that working with a number of progressive organizations, last week these organizations dropped off a petition with 700,000 names to Senator Murray and to Congressman Ryan saying don't cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and I very much appreciate their effort to make that happen.
Yeah, that was it was a great coalition. I know Progressive Democrats of America was part of that. Okay, we got a whole bunch of callers now for you.
Okay.
So let's go for it. John in Minneapolis, Minnesota. You're on the air, Senator Sanders.
I just wanted to say to Senator Sanders that I think the Democratic Party needs to have the leadership and stick their necks out as far as the Trans-Pacific Partnership and say, hey, we support labor. And it's not just labor like labor, quote, a special interest group. We're all laboring, even people who are non-contract like myself, technical people. It's literally millions of people. And I want to say to them, stick your neck out and say, no. You know, Obama should say, no, we're not going to do this. I just find that there's no spine in the Democratic Party. I support the Progressive Caucus. I've supported Keith Ellison. I worked on his campaign. But I'm not going to get involved in the DFL here in this state because one of the reasons is that, and then also
John, John, can we let John? I'm sorry.
By the way, I want to say that Keith Ellison, in my view, is doing a great job. I helped found the Progressive Caucus way back when I got elected to the House in '91, and Keith is probably and Raul Grijalva are doing a terrific job making it an important caucus in the Congress. You know, what can I say to John? I think he's right. As Tom and I have discussed for a number of years now, the trade policies that this country has established, from NAFTA to CAFTA to permanent normal trade relations with China, etc., have worked very, very well for the multinational corporations. They have been a disaster for working families who have seen jobs go to China and other low-wage countries. I fear very much that TPP is part of that trend. This is a bill being written by corporate America. And what can I tell you? I agree with John on that. But you have seen for a number of years, whether it was Bill Clinton, whether it was Barack Obama, support for trade policies which do not work well for working people.
Michael in Westerville, Ohio. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Good afternoon, Tom and Senator Sanders. It's a pleasure. By the way, I've got your book, and I'm starting to go through it, Tom. It's exciting.
Thank you.
I wanted to talk about unemployment, and not just from the situation we're in now, but it seems to me that this is something that's been coming on for many, many years, and my question, I'll just make the statement short and then ask the question, is why nothing has been done in government and think tanks to address this. The unemployment today, as I see it, is basically a result of years of automation, so that's eliminated jobs, and increased productivity, so things look good. Offshoring, of course, shift from making things to financial transactions, frozen minimum wage, as you were just talking, TPP coming along, and the growth in service and low pay. All of these are to the benefit of the wealthy and corporations. They're not the fault of the workers who have lost the jobs. And it seems to me that this could have been or should have been predictable for the last 30 years as this trend was proceeding. And I'm wondering why we have not, as a government and as think tanks around the country, started to address
points are excellent. I think you hit the nail on the head, and I agree with everything you just said. Your analysis is exactly right. The answer is that this is what's going on in Washington right now. You have some of us, and again, I'm a member of this Budget Conference Committee, and what I have said over and over and over again, publicly and privately, that the most important issue we have to deal with is jobs. Is the deficit a serious issue? Yeah, it is. The good news is we've cut the deficit in half in the last 4 years, and we have to keep going. But the far more important issue is that real unemployment in this country is close to 14%. Youth unemployment is around 20%. African-American youth unemployment is somewhere around 40%. What we desperately need to do is to create jobs and deal with the issues that Michael just raised. There's some talk about somewhat rebirth of manufacturing in America, and that's great. But two factors have got to be understood. Number one, they are producing more with far fewer workers because of robotics and automation. And second of all, sadly and tragically, the wages paid to many of the workers who are entering manufacturing now are significantly less than what they used to be. These are issues that have to be dealt with if we're going to save the middle class of this country. I think Michael's analysis is right. Well, I can tell you, for some of us, jobs are at the top of the list. And when you hear about this budget negotiations going on, one of the fights that we are making is that we have got to invest substantially in rebuilding our infrastructure, transforming our energy system, and when you do that, we can create millions of jobs.
Todd in Aurora, Colorado, watching on Roku. Hey, Todd.
On Roku, yes. Bernie, I was wondering when you might be running for president, or if you're not, when we can expect to see a real progressive running for president.
Well, Todd, thank you very much. And, that question is kind of asked of me quite a bit.
About once a week.
Well, more than that, I would say. But
yeah, on this program.
And this is what I have said, Todd. I think the issues that we talk about on this show, the issues of the collapsing middle class, the growth in income and wealth inequality, the fact that we're the only nation on earth, a major country on earth without a national health care system, the fact that we just talked about a moment ago, that unemployment is so high and creating jobs should be the major priority of our government, the fact that we have the highest rate of childhood poverty in the industrialized world, the fact that Wall Street has so much wealth and so much power, the fact that we are living under the Citizens United disastrous decision, which allows the Koch brothers and others to pour huge amounts of money into politics. All of those issues need to be debated, and they need to be discussed, and they need to be dealt with. And you know what? On virtually all of these issues, the American people agree with us. They want to protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and so forth and so on. They want to create jobs. They want the wealthy to start paying their fair share. So what I have said, Todd, in response to this question about running for president is somebody has got to get out there and start raising those issues, start organizing people, and start educating. I think there are a number of people who have the capability of doing that. It is 3 years since until the presidential election, and I think somebody will come forward. But, will I give some consideration to doing that if other people don't come forward? The answer is I will, because somebody has got to raise these issues. We can't go through a presidential election where the needs of the working families of this country are not being discussed. So we've got a long way to go on that, but that's my response.
I would love to see you run for president, Bernie. Wow. We just have 10 seconds. Okay. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Be sure to check out Bernie's website at sanders.senate.gov. And you can sign up for the Bernie Buzz over there. And we will be back with more of your questions for Senator Sanders in just a moment. Also, I'll be in Minneapolis tomorrow, 6 to 9 p.m. at the Operating Engineers Hall. For tickets to that, go to am950radio.com. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Bernie's website, sanders.senate.gov. Sign up for the Bernie Buzz. Find out what's going on in the world. Welcome back. Edmund in Hot Springs National Park. You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Good afternoon, Senator. My name is Edmund. I'm calling from Hot Springs, Arkansas. And I know that selling body parts and using your body parts for profit is illegal in this country, also considered immoral. I'm wondering how is that profiting from health of people is allowable and it's not considered immoral? And how can we consider ourselves civilized nation when we have health care for profit?
Well, Edmund, that's a very good question. I think it's a legitimate question. As I have said many times, I think it is an embarrassment and a disgrace that the United States has not joined the rest of the world in making it clear that health care should be a right, R-I-G-H-T, of all people. And the fact is, according to a study of a few years ago from Harvard University, that about 45,000 people a year die because they don't have health insurance, they hesitate going to the doctor, and by the time they do go, if they do go, it's too late. This is a rampant problem. So I agree with you. It is an issue of morality. And by the way, it's also an issue of economics because we end up spending so much more than other countries for healthcare because of the dysfunctional system that we have. So the goal is healthcare for all, do it in a cost-effective way. I happen to believe the most cost-effective way is a Medicare for all single-payer system.
Ed in Klamath Falls, Oregon. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Good day, Senator. I was wondering why you don't put an end to the fast-track process for bills that don't allow discussion or amendment. That is what we send you to Congress to do.
Well, and actually I vote against fast-track when it comes. There is a concern about fast-track for TPP, which is maybe what you are referring to, and I am strongly opposed to that. So, and I want to pick up on Ed's point because I hear it too often, and that is you guys in Congress. That's what we send you to do. Well, there are 435 members of the House. There are 100 members of the Senate. It's not you guys. It is different people with different views. There are some people who strongly support TPP, who want as little debate as possible. There are big money interests who are pushing this thing forward, and there's some of us who strongly oppose it. So to simply say you guys or everybody is factually wrong, and that's one of the problems in America. You have sometimes people say, well, I dislike everybody. Well, that's kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense because there are people with different points of view. What point of view do you have? Who do you dislike? Who's for you? Who is against you? Those are kind of issues we have to work with.
Yeah, I have the fellow who drove me down to the radio station today was going off about how he didn't vote in the last election because he was so disgusted.
Right.
And I'm like, why don't you show up for the political parties?
Well, the point is, and a lot of people, there are people, throw everybody out, they're all terrible. Well, there are people who have fundamentally different points of view. That's a cop-out. What's your point of view? Support the people who you think make sense, oppose the people who don't. But say that everybody is awful is a totally irrational statement.
Senator Bernie Sanders with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. We'll be back with more of your calls for Senator Sanders right after this, 10 minutes before the end. Welcome back. It's Brunch with Bernie. Senator Bernie Sanders on the line with us, sanders.senate.gov, his website, and Kevin in Brownfield, Texas. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi, Tom. Hi, Senator Sanders. This is Kevin, and I just wanted to agree with what Tom said earlier about Bernie being president. I would love that, and I'd love to have a lot of people in Congress and the Senate just like him. But anyway, my question is, we know that corporations try to maximize profit, but when you consider that versus what they're doing to America, shipping all our manufacturing jobs overseas to China and India and Mexico, I mean, what is their goal with America? If they reduce us to poverty,
Here's what they're going to make? That's an excellent question. And I think this is what the answer is, and it's important that people understand that. They don't give a damn. They don't consider themselves, if you're a large multinational corporation, you don't particularly care about America. Your goal is to make profit. And if you can shut down a plant in America and make 5 cents more profit by moving it to China, that's a good deal for you. There is no allegiance. Many of these major American corporations were made wealthy by their own workers in this country and by the consumers of this country. But in recent years, they have turned their backs on America, and that's just the way it is. I remember the fellow who was head of General Electric, what was his name? Welch, Jack Welch. Tom, you remember Welch's famous statement?
You're talking about the barge?
Right. He said, something to the effect that if I had my druthers, this is the guy who was head of General Electric, one of the large American corporations, said if I had my druthers, I would put our manufacturing on a barge, so I'd be able to move it to any part of the world where wages were low. And in fact, the fellow who followed him, what's his name, Jeff Inmelt, some years ago said, well, when I look at the future of GE, I look at China, China, China. So these guys, they don't have allegiance to America. And I will tell you that some months ago, guys from the Business Roundtable, which is the organization representing all of corporate America, they came forward to Washington, and they were saying, you got to cut Social Security or raise the retirement age for Medicare, et cetera, et cetera. So these guys are really waging a class warfare against the American worker, and we've got to stand up to them and develop a strategy which defeats them.
Eric in Medford, Oregon. You're on the air with Senator Sanders. Eric?
Oh, hey. Thank you. Senator, I'm one of the vets that was kicked off of TRICARE Prime last month, and I'm a cancer patient, so it's caused my prices to go up significantly now that I'm not paying a copay. I'm just paying the percentage. I looked into a supplemental plan. Well, ACA doesn't affect vets, so I still have a pre-existing condition, so I can't get a supplemental insurance plan.
Are you going to the VA facility?
We don't have one.
You don't have anyone near you at all?
Yeah, there's nothing for that, so I'm using regular care like that.
All right, Eric, I would check out the VA. Don't dismiss it quite so quickly. I don't know where the nearest facility is to you. Is it anywhere near you at all?
Oh, Medford's about, an hour and a half from Portland, Eric?
Oh, it's about a 5-hour drive.
All right, well, that's the one. See if you have what's called a community-based outreach clinic. Anyhow, go to the website for a start. We are looking at TRICARE, and you're not the only person who's having that problem. But second of all, I would urge you to get to the website, see if there is a local. We have a lot of primary health care clinics called community-based outreach clinics, and there may be one in a reasonable proximity to you. I would urge you to check it out. But we are looking at this TRICARE problem as well.
Okay. Arlie in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, listening on AM 1350.
Hello,
Arlie,
how are you
USA
doing
Centers.
today?
Good.
Good. My question is this. Because of the Affordable Care Act, my premiums have just raised, just to meet the minimum, has raised up $1,400 a year. That $1,400 a year, wait, let me time out. I'm a 5-person family, single. I make the income. My wife is home with the kids to take care of them. This is my problem. That $1,400 a year that now I have to pay for medical insurance for this Obamacare takes away from my kids to be athletically involved in sports.
Let me ask you this question, Ollie. Are you on the phone?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Did you have health insurance before the Affordable Care Act?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Now, since then, now it's raised up. I pay.
But let me ask you this.
$1,400 more.
Okay. Now let me ask you a question. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know your income, and you don't have to announce your income over the radio. Have you checked to see if you are eligible for a federal subsidy?
Yes, I have, and I'm not.
Your income is above?
Yes. So I want to know that $1,400. Seriously, it's hard with $1,400
is $1,400. You don't have to explain it to me. I understand that. That's real. What I would say, all I would say is, and I hope you have looked at it thoroughly, is that for many people, depending on their income, I don't know what your income is it $50,000 or $70,000, whatever it is. If you have, how many kids do you have?
5. He just dropped.
That's a large family. I mean, 5 kids and a husband and a wife. That income eligibility goes up pretty high, and somebody in that position, obviously depending on their income, could well be eligible for a subsidy which would do away with this additional payment.
Yeah. Okay, Bernie, we got a little less than a minute to wrap up the hour.
Okay, the last point that I want to make that we didn't get into, Tom, there's some good news out there. Very often, I think we have a lot of folks who work or interested in the U.S. postal system who listen to the show. There was just a report that came out looking at the financial situation of the Postal Service over the last year. And here's the good news. Without this onerous, this terrible burden of $5.5 billion a year that goes into retiree health benefits, the Postal Service this year actually made $600 million on their business.
Wow.
Profit.
That is great. And Bernie, I am so pleased to hear that you would consider running for president. I hope we can talk more about that in the future.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Senator. Thanks for being with us. We'll be back.